What's going on, YouTube? It's been a while, but we're back. And today we are having a look at horror games on the Game Boy Advance. Now, the Game Boy Advance has always had a weird relationship with the horror genre. There were plenty of horror games that came out for the Game Boy Color, so it always seemed odd to me that Nintendo glossed over the horror genre for their more advanced system, the Game Boy Advanced. As I began collecting for the GBA, everyone that I spoke to said that there simply wasn't any horror games available for the Game Boy Advance, which I found hard to believe. So over the years, I began collecting every horror or horror-inspired game available for the GBA. So without any further ado, let's get started and have a look. First on the list, we have Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Wrath of the Darkhool King. This is a side-scrolling action platformer developed by Natsume in 2003. Set in the show's 4th season, you play as Buffy Summers, who must stop the resurrection of a demon warlord called the Darkhool King. This game has 16 linear levels, with stages that include college campuses, cemeteries, abandoned hospitals, and many more. As you might have guessed, the most common enemy in this game are, of course, vampires. But Buffy will have to battle other demonic creatures and entities as well. You start each level with nothing but your fists and feet to defend yourselves. But to actually kill a vampire, you must drive a stake through their heart. You can only carry 9 stakes at a time, but there are plenty of wooden boxes throughout each level that can be destroyed to obtain more stakes. You can also dispatch vampires by exposing them to sunlight or kicking them off a ledge. Throughout the levels, Buffy can find other weapons such as axes, crossbows, even rifles, and flamethrowers. Between the levels, the story progresses with cutscenes, where we get to see other characters from the TV show. These cutscenes are digitized stills, straight from the show. Now this game is nothing special. It's your average action platformer. But if you grew up watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer like me, it's definitely worth checking out. A loose copy is worth $40 on Pricecharting.com. Next on the list is one of my personal favorites. Welcome to Monster House. What happens when you combine Resident Evil and Zelda? You get Monster House. This action horror adventure was created by a team called Artificial Mind and Movement. Based on the movie of the same name, the story follows friends DJ, Jenny, and Chowder. Together, they must stop Old Man Nevercracker's house, which has come alive and begun to kidnap and devour children. The player takes control of the 3 friends, as you have the ability to switch between each character. Each friend has their own health meter and unique abilities. As you explore the bowels of the house, you can find multiple items in chests, vases, and many more hiding places. Each character has their own water gun to defend themselves, as any furniture in the house can come alive and attack you. You are never safe in this game, except for the bathrooms. As the house's weakness is water, the bathrooms act as safe rooms, where you can both save the game and refill your weapon. This is a must-play game for both horror fans and the casual gamer. I was shocked how good it was, especially considering it's based on a kids movie. Pick up a loose copy of this classic for just $9. Next on the list, we're checking out the legendary franchise Doom. Both Doom 1 and 2 are available on the Game Boy Advance. Let's start with Doom 1. Wow, that title screen brings back a lot of memories. Back in 2001, Doom was ported to the GBA by a company called David A. Palmer Productions. This version uses the same engine as many other ports of the 90s, but is probably most similar to the version on the Jaguar. As you can see, it's quite pixelated, but this is still a solid port of Doom. I've had many fun hours playing this game on trips and would highly recommend it. This is a must-play for fans of the Doom franchise, or even just first-person shooters. Pick up a loose copy of this horror classic for just $38. Now let's play some Doom 2. This version was developed by a different company called Taurus Games and published by Activision. Doom 2 on the GBA doesn't use the same engine as the original. Instead, it uses an engine called Southpaw. This engine was made from the ground up to run first-person shooters on the Game Boy Advance. Although it's running on a different engine, it's still very similar to the OG PC version. This is another solid port and definitely worth checking out. This one's a bit pricey though. A loose copy on Pricecharting.com is worth $58. Next up, we're checking out Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, The Pumpkin King. This game is a prequel to the 1993 Tim Burton classic and tells the story of Jack's first encounter with the Oogie Boogie Man and how he became known as the Pumpkin King. This game is your standard action platformer. You can jump or attack. It's very basic, but also makes the game very simple and easy to play. Throughout the game, Jack will be granted different weapons. As you can see, the mayor is giving me my first frog gun right now. Now, this game is definitely aimed at a younger audience, but horror fans will definitely appreciate the spooky elements. And I'm not gonna lie, when I saw this movie for the first time as a kid, I found it very unsettling. But maybe that was just me. All in all, this is a solid game. The graphics are great, the gameplay is very smooth. It's definitely one to check out. There's also 3 mini-games that you can unlock, which is a welcome bonus in any game. A loose copy of this game is worth $32 on PriceCharting.com. I'd highly recommend it. Next up, we got Van Helsing. Let's pop it in. This action-adventure game was developed by a company called Sapphire. It is based on the 2004 horror movie of the same name. Van Helsing has an old-school top-down isometric view, and for the most part follows the events of the movie. There's also digitized portraits of the movie characters with text bubbles to help progress the story. You have a melee attack with your blade, as well as ranged weapons with your guns and crossbow. You also have a grappling hook that can pull enemies towards you. This can also be used to get to certain ledges and other hard to reach places. All in all, this game is not bad. It gives me kind of a watered down Blood Omen feel for the PS1. It's not bad, it's only $8 on PriceCharting.com, but I'd only recommend it if you're a big fan of the movie. This next game on our list is a special one. It was released only in Japan. Let's check it out. Soft. Kamatachi no Yoru is an interactive visual novel created by Chunsoft. The title, Kamatachi no Yoru, translates in English to The Night of the Sickle Weasel. Kamatachi are Japanese yokai, which are one of many supernatural entities. Yokai are creatures that can be friendly, but also be evil and mischievous. In Japanese folklore, Kamatachi are described as beasts with the cry of a dog and fur of a hedgehog or weasel. They ride through the air on whirlwinds and have razor-sharp blades on each limb, thus the translation, Sickle Weasel. This game was originally released on the Super Famicom in 1994 and was later ported to many other systems, including the PlayStation, PC, and eventually the Game Boy Advance. In 2014, an English version was released on Android and iOS, although its name was changed to Banshee's Last Cry. The story follows a couple who are on vacation at a ski lodge, where they're then drawn into a supernatural murder mystery. There's a good ending and a bad ending, depending on the choices that you make. This is an interesting and unique game, and don't let the music fool you, it is a true horror experience on the Game Boy Advance. The obvious downfall is that it's all in Japanese, so you must be fluent in the language or patient enough to translate the text as you play. This is a must-play game for hardcore horror collectors, although I wouldn't recommend it to the casual gamer, as the language barrier can be a bit of a pain in the butt. Now, I wasn't able to find a value on this game on PriceCharting.com. It's just that weird. But I imported mine on eBay for $30 plus shipping, if that helps. Next up, we have Casper. Let's give her a play. Made by a developer called Microids and released in 2002, you play as none other than Casper, the friendly ghost. Casper's brothers, the ghostly trio, have transformed all the adults in town into zombies. Dr. James Harvey had created a cure for the zombified town, but before he could save the town, he was transformed himself into a mindless zombie. Now it's up to Casper to safely guide Dr. Harvey through the mansion and collect all the vials containing the cure. As Casper, you can not only fly through walls and ceilings, but you can change into many different forms to ensure that Dr. Harvey makes it safely through the mansion. At times, you even have to scare Dr. Harvey to ensure that he goes in the right direction. Along the way, Casper's older brothers will attempt to scare Dr. Harvey. If he takes too much damage or is frightened too much, he will face life-threatening consequences. This is definitely a unique game. I would definitely recommend it to fans of the Casper franchise, but I definitely wouldn't recommend it to the casual gamer, as although it's fun having all the freedoms that you have as Casper, being able to fly through walls and transform, it gets quite tedious babysitting Dr. Harvey very quickly. If you're interested though, PriceCharting.com has this game valued at $11.50. Next on the list, we have got The Pinball of the Dead. This horror-inspired pinball game was developed by Sega and released in 2002. The game is a spin-off of Sega's House of the Dead series. Pinball of the Dead has 3 action-packed stages based on the original arcade levels. You start off each stage by shooting your ball down the right lane. As this happens, an image of a zombie appears, and you must shoot it with your crosshairs. If you have success, you'll be awarded a bonus. From here on, it's pretty standard pinball, with the main objective of being taking out as many zombies as possible. Once you've collected enough points, you'll be given the opportunity to fight the stage boss. Your main goal is to take out as many zombies as possible. The more you kill, the more points you get. Once you've collected enough points, you will be given the opportunity to fight the stage boss. The graphics in this game are amazing. The gameplay is quick and easy to learn. There's full motion video sequences and audio clips from House of the Dead 1 and 2. I had a super fun time playing this game. It's a must-play for pinball fans and fans of House of the Dead. I'd also recommend this game to the casual gamer. It's just really fun and easy to pick up, and you don't have to invest very much time into it. If you're interested in this classic, a loose copy on PriceCharting.com is worth $35. The next game on our list is a first-person shooter classic. Wolfenstein 3D was developed by id Software and was originally released in 1992 on MS-DOS. In 2002, it was ported to the Game Boy Advance. The GBA version of Wolfenstein is a direct port to the original MS-DOS version. Unlike most ports, this port is almost identical to the OG MS-DOS version. The resolution is a bit lower, and there's no background music, and the save system has changed a bit too, but otherwise it's identical. Now, Wolfenstein isn't really a horror game per se. It's more of a mature action game. But Wolfenstein is Doom's older brother, so I felt I had to mention it. Plus, there is horror elements in this game. It takes place in a creepy castle, there's tons of death and violence, not to mention it's terrifying when the stage bosses stalk you. Pick up Wolfenstein 3D on the GBA if you're a fan of the original or a fan of first-person shooters. On PriceCharting.com, a loose copy is worth $25. Next up, we have Castlevania: Circle of the Moon. Now, there's more than one Castlevania title available on the GBA, but Circle of the Moon was a launch title, released alongside the Game Boy Advance back in 2001. The Castlevania series are of course developed by Konami, and follow the eternal conflict between Dracula and the vampire hunters of the Belmont clan. In Circle of the Moon, however, you play as Nathan Graves, whose parents died 10 years ago while trying to defeat Dracula. Nathan was raised by a fellow hunter named Morris Baldwin, who fought alongside Nathan's parents a decade earlier. Now that Dracula has been resurrected, it's up to Nathan to stop Dracula and rescue his mentor. The gameplay of Circle of the Moon makes use of classic 2D side-scrolling. Weapons available include an axe, dagger, holy water, and of course, the Hunter's Whip. Unlike most Castlevania titles, the gameplay in Circle of the Moon is non-linear, as certain parts of the castle can only be explored once Nathan has gained new abilities. There's also RPG elements incorporated. As Nathan defeats different enemies, Nathan will gain experience points, and have the choice of what stats are improved when he levels up. There's plenty to sink your teeth into with Circle of the Moon. It's a must-play for fans of the Castlevania series. On PriceCharting.com, a loose copy is worth $26.50. Before we have a look at the last two games on our list, here are a few other games available on the GBA that I think horror fans might also appreciate. The second last game on our list is none other than Resident Evil 2. Let's check it out. Now, before you get too excited, this isn't a full version of Resident Evil 2. It's actually a tech demo created by an Italian company called Raylight Studios. In 2003, Raylight Studios used this Resident Evil tech demo as a pitch to Capcom for their Blue Roses engine. Raylight Studios wanted to create a full Resident Evil game on the GBA.
Resident Evil 2. A bizarre incident occurred in the outskirts of an American suburb called Raccoons. It was later revealed that the terrible disaster had been caused by the T-virus, a mutagenic toxin created by the international enterprise Umbrella Incorporated. For you, the Raccoon City Police Department's Special Stars Unit immediately began investigation in the case was apparently closed, thanks to the efforts of STARS members Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine. But the Umbrella Corporation's experiments were far from finished.
Unfortunately, Capcom wasn't interested in creating any more games on handheld devices that were from the Resident Evil franchise, as Resident Evil Gaiden had mixed reviews. It's too bad that Capcom turned down Raylight Studios, because had they given the go-ahead, there's no doubt in my mind that this would have been a huge hit. This demo definitely proves that survival horror was possible on the Game Boy Advance. If anyone's interested in playing this demo, you can buy ROM hack cartridges online. Okay, YouTube, as usual, I saved the best for last. Welcome to the town of Silent Hill. This series needs no introduction, but in case you've been living under a rock the last 20 years, Silent Hill is an iconic survival horror game released on the PlayStation back in 1999. This classic was developed by Team Silent and published by Konami. The story follows Harry Mason as he searches for his missing daughter in the fictional town of Silent Hill. In 2001, Konami released an altered version of Silent Hill on the Game Boy Advance. Instead of attempting to port the original Silent Hill to a handheld device, Konami instead opted to create an interactive visual novel. The entire story of Silent Hill is retold through text-based gameplay. At certain points, the player will have to make different decisions that will affect the outcome, as well as solve puzzles to progress the story. The game offers two scenarios. One is Harry Mason, and one is Officer Sybil Bennett. Sybil's scenario only becomes available after you've beaten the game as Harry. There is even a third scenario available for download through the GBA mobile adapter, where you play as Harry's next-door neighbor, a boy named Andy. However, Konami ended this download service years ago. Now, obviously, the biggest drawback to this game is that it's all in Japanese. Game Boy Advances are region-free, so playing it won't be a problem. But unless you speak Japanese, you'll once again have to slowly translate the text on your phone, which can affect your immersion in the game. Now, I would still recommend this game for fans of Silent Hill. I had a lot of fun playing it, despite the language barrier. This hidden gem is not cheap though. On PriceCharting.com, a loose copy is worth $120. Well guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. This is a video that I've been wanting to make for a very long time, but a few of the games on the list were tough to track down for a good price. Now, you could argue that some of the games on this list weren't true horror. I cast a pretty large net. But I think I have proven that there are indeed horror games available for the GBA, and that some of them are worth playing too. If there's any games that I missed that you think should have been on this list, let me know in the comments below. Well, that's all for tonight. Have a good one,